Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and I'm going to start this message by making a prediction or a statement or something. And that prediction or statement is that you will sometimes take shots that you have no business taking, you'll make bluffs that you have no business making, and that you'll call bets knowing that you're beat in spots that you know that you have no business being in. So why is that? Why do I think that? Why do I think if any of that rings true to you, why do I think it's ringing true to you? I'm going to make another prediction now. For most of you, a big part of it will be because you have really bad bankroll management. In my opinion, this common poker leak is a huge reason why the vast majority of players are long-term losers in the game. Poor bankroll management. It leads to so many other leaks in our games, and our leaks in our mindset and in our mental game. And it's kind of one of the first things we should have put in place as a poker player. For example, it's commonly accepted that 30 buy-ins is enough for cash games. Fair enough, people say that, and yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe 30 buy-ins is enough for cash games. The difference is, I feel 30 buy-ins is the minimum a consistent winning player should be working from. And those 30 buy-ins shouldn't represent a big portion of your net worth away from the tables. I'm not going to put a percentage number on that because it's different for all of us depending on lots of different factors. But certainly having 30 buy-ins in your poker account and having 2 mice and a tumbleweed in your bank account is not good money management for poker. It's not even close to it. I have spoken to so many players over the last 2 years, maybe even longer, but 2 years since I've been doing the mentoring, a lot longer than that for just in terms of been playing poker, how long I've been playing poker, and many of them have been pretty damn solid, fundamentally good poker players. But ultimately their awful money management has ruined them. It's either ruined them in terms of they've just fell out of love with the game because the pressure's been too much for them. It's ruined them because they've just gone broke and excuse me, it's ruined them because they've just gone broke and they just don't have the money to reload to play the limits that they were once playing. So for example, somebody goes broke at 25 and L, they don't want to regrind from 4 and L, that type of thing. Or it's ruined them because the emotional pain that losing a significant part of your net worth can create in your overall life is something that lots of players don't want to live through a second time. So they're all the reasons why poor bankroll management pretty much ruins most players. So for me, poker discipline starts way before we hit the tables. Poker discipline essentially requires us to be a nit with all of the important stuff. So we don't have to be a nit when we're actually playing the game. I am a renowned nit. You know, people who know me, either through the poker communities that are now frequent every day, or the poker communities I used to frequent, they all are kind of universally known as a nit. Any of the people I know from real life, my friends from real life, they'll know, or the people I've played poker with live, or people I've actually played poker with, will tell you them anything but a nit. You know, I mean, I'm not by no means a lag, but you know, I'm not a life nit. I'm a poker nit in terms of making sure everything's in place, but that's as far as it goes, and that's really important to me, because we don't want to be a nit when we're actually playing the game. We don't want to be the nit. We don't want to be the guy that's like scared all the time. We want to be the guy that just relaxes, plays his game, and produces his A game a lot of the time. And the best way to do that is to have everything in place. So when you get to the tables, there's actually nothing stopping you producing your best. So what do I mean by being a nit away from the tables? Well, we need to have a bank account that's in good shape. We need to have a reliable income stream or income streams away from the tables. That for me is pretty mandatory, as we just touched on earlier. If you've got most of your net worth outside of, say, your car or your house or something, basically, if you've got more cash in a poker account than you've got in the bank, then you're doing it wrong. You're starting off on the wrong foot, and you're probably, destined to fail, in my opinion. This isn't optional. This is mandatory. I mean, there'll always be players that there'll be rare occurrence of some random player that just makes it work. They'll have some huge heater, they'll have some massive good fortune at the start, and they'll just blast their way out of being underrolled. And then sometimes you have the good sense to understand, to get further down the poker life. You know what? I got pretty lucky there. Now I'm going to start practicing good bankroll management. And those guys, they've got a chance. The guys that just continue blasting their way up from, say, $400 at 25 and L to $1,200 at 100 and L to $3,000 at 200 and L. Eventually, those guys go broke. You cannot treat your poker bankroll like a tournament. You've got to be much more disciplined than that. Because when we have that, we can just be relaxed when we play. We're going to get the most out of ourselves. We're going to get the most out of our money, and we're going to be relaxed playing because we're going to be comfortable with the money. And if we lose, we're going to be comfortable with that. We're not going to like it. No one likes losing, but you have to be comfortable that when you have a losing spell that's inevitable, it's not going to have any effect on your life away from the tables, both financially and emotionally. You might think you can afford to lose when you're playing 25 and off $800 and you've got nothing in the bank. But when the roll drops to $500, say for example, and news starts to tighten, the pressure starts, your guts start churning every time you play, that's quite often when other forms of indiscipline will start to creep into your game. At this point, in my opinion, you're going to be very, very susceptible to the type of tilt that's known as desperation tilt. Now, I'm stealing this from Jared Tendler. I'm making no claim to this side of thing whatsoever, but I mean, the man's a genius, and he describes desperation tilt as the urge to win your money back and get unstuck is so strong it makes you play monster sessions, force the action, and jump up in stakes. How many of you guys have done that when you've been on a downswing? You've moved up to try and win your money back quicker. You've put longer sessions in to try and win the money back, and then you're putting long sessions in when you're not really feeling at your best, you're not playing your best. Or you've you've tried to run too many bluffs, you've just tried to steal too many pots, or you refuse to fold in some big pots because, you feel like that pot means such a lot to you. That is essentially desperation tilt, and that's what you're incredibly vulnerable to if you have poor bankroll management. It's desperation tilt, in my opinion, is the form of tilt that affects regulars more often than any other kind of tilt. If you've been around poker for a long time, you should be used to the bad beats, you should be used to the common feelings of injustice, and you're probably understand enough to accept that having a sense of entitlement is just stupid, so you're less vulnerable to those types of tilt that those kind of short-term emotions can lead to. You're probably pretty good at getting over one or two bad beats. You're probably pretty good at just accepting sometimes the fish are going to win. But if these things happen, cumulatively, and they result in a medium to large downswing, when you're already on the cusp of kind of bad bankroll management, you're really, really there. You're at severe risk of just spunking your bankroll away. However, it's a lot harder to fight the desperation tilt because when that hits, a lot of your logic just goes right out of the window. If you're fighting the pressure from we talked about one or two of the previous kinds of tilt that we can talk about, you can kind of get over them, but with desperation tilt, it's a real killer blow for me. I've suffered from it myself in the past when I wasn't well rolled and when I wasn't as financially sound as I am now. So I am speaking from experience. I'm speaking from the guy who has suffered from all of these things. So how do you kind of get over this? For me, you need to, first of all, have your financial affairs away from the table in good shape. You need to have either one of these two things. A really good income stream that allows you to play and lose at the stakes you're playing at. So if you've, I don't know, you could be a professional and you could be earning £3,000 a month. So therefore, losing $500 or £300 at poker isn't going to fucking hurt you. You can afford to reload that. So it's not such a big deal. If you've got that kind of income stream and you can afford to sustain those kind of hits, not on a regular basis, but on an intermittent basis, then fine. You don't need to have a huge bankroll because you've got an infinite bankroll due to your income stream. if you don't have that level of income stream, if you're like a lower paid worker or you're a college student, then you need to build some really solid foundations before you start trying to develop your poker career. You need to have enough money in the bank where if you lose some buy-ins, you can afford to reload from that bank. You need to have enough money in the bank where if you have a dry month at poker and you need to pay some bills, you can still pay them bills. I mean, the amount of people I've known who've they've had most of their cash in a poker account, and then they're withdrawing to pay electricity bill, they're withdrawing to pay a community charge, or whatever they're withdrawing to. If they're a little bump in the road, it has to come out of their poker bankroll. You can't have that. Your poker bankroll needs to be your poker bankroll, and you need to have a life roll as well. If you don't have a life roll and you have a poker bankroll, in my opinion, you are doing it wrong. Because, if just something happens, I don't know, for example, you have no money in the bank, you have $800 in your bankroll, and you're planning on withdrawing a few dollars so you could take your wife or your boyfriend or whoever out for a meal, and then all of a sudden you have a 5 buy-in downswing. It can feel like your whole world is just completely caving in. Then, fuck me, the end of the month comes and a bill pops up. And all of a sudden, you've gone from like, you're either going to be in debt in your bank, you're going to be into your overdraft or something, which causes pressure. When have we any business really playing poker when we're overdrawn? Probably not, in my opinion. Or you end up withdrawing from your poker bankroll, but you don't have the discipline to step down. And then, before you know it, you're trying to play 25 and off $300 or something like that. And then the pressure's it's cranked up. You're getting pressure from all sides. And, most people aren't going to be equipped to deal with that. So you need to, in my opinion, you need to have a life roll first, then a bankroll, then start planning on moving up to the limits. That's the way to do it. Don't plan on moving up to the limits, playing the upper micro stakes or higher if you do not have a life roll. You just need to stop being that guy. If you are that guy, and you might be offended by this, you're just a degen. You can play good poker, when all the stars are aligned and when, things are going right for you, you can play good poker. But then you hit a bump in the road and it just, everything just goes up, you hit the bump in the road, all your possessions go up in the air, they come down, they're scattered everywhere. And it just ends up being, your life is a mess, your poker life's a mess. And poker's the sort of game that just has tons and tons and tons of bumps in the road. So if you're not prepared for them, then frankly, you're not going to have, in my opinion, a particularly good chance of long-term success in poker. You're not going to have longevity. It's going to be impossible. You're going to be the guy begging for a steak. You're going to be the guy that's always saying, fuck my life, I'm so unlucky, I'm the unluckiest man in the world. When ultimately, luck, it evens out, doesn't it? And the guys that are doing it right away from the tables are the guys who ride the luck and continue playing the game we love. The guys that aren't prepared away from the table are the guys that end up being like restless malcontents on forums, kind of hating the world, hating everything about poker, but they're addicted to it, the degens. Don't be those guys, in my opinion. Just don't be that guy. Just prepare financially so that, if you are well prepared financially, you're going to be much better prepared emotionally. And if we're better prepared emotionally, then we're way, way, way less susceptible to all forms of tilt. Now, I readily accept that most players from the Western world, and that's, the guys that frequent 2+2, Reddit, from my Facebook group, all those things, I readily accept people from like richer parts of the world don't really want to be playing lower than 25 and L. I get that. I totally understand that. And I understand the rush to get to the upper limits of the micro stakes and beyond, higher than that, mid stakes, all those kinds of things. However, if you just do not have the discipline to build a life roll and then build a poker roll that allows you to roll with all the punches, like on and away from the table, because we can get life bad beats too. I don't care how good you are at the actual act of playing poker. In my opinion, you're a decent favourite to screw up in the mid to long term, and that's even if you make it to the mid to long term. A lot of the times you'll screw up in the short term, and you'll be constantly reloading and constantly coming out with all the bullshit that we see bad regulars come out with on a daily and weekly basis on the forums. If you're a player with more dollars in your poker account than you have in your bank account, just to touch on this again, you are doing it incredibly wrong. You are making a huge fundamental mistake. Your chances of long-term success are they're incredibly slim. You have almost no chance unless you hit an incredible heat set. And then, develop the sense to realise how lucky you got, and then put things in place to prevent yourself from doing that again. You're just going to be making a bunch of mistakes at the tables as you try to make up for your real poor financial indiscipline. It's just that simple. And it doesn't matter what people say to you, how good you are, how good you think you are, how big you think your win rate is. If your money situation isn't right, you're fucked. You've got no chance long term. Many people will get to this point in the podcast and they'll be thinking, what is this guy talking about? Fuck this guy. He's just a fucking life nit. He's got no gamble. And you're probably right in that. I am a bit of a life nit, and I don't have that much gamble in me. I used to have a lot of gamble in me. I used to be the degenerate that I've talked about. This is why I'm able to talk about these things, because I've been there. I'm not talking from some ivory tower that I've never been there, I've never experienced it. I've experienced all of these things. I've been the degen. I've been the guy who's played 5th Gen L off $500 and had heat, then not realised it's just been heat, and then had the injustice tilt and spunked it all away. I've done all of those things. And yeah, now maybe I am a life nit, but it's being a life nit that's allowed me to survive in what is an incredibly tough poker landscape for what is quite a long time now. Fair enough, I may not have made tons of progress to the limits, but maybe I have just stood still at playing at the limits I play. But that's a million times better than most other players are actually doing. That's a lot better than many, many players that will swear up and down that they're way better than me at poker have ever done and can ever hope to do. So I guess why I want to finish this is just saying, just do yourself a favour. If you've found yourself listening to this thinking, yeah, that's me, yeah, that's me, yeah, that's me, just do yourself a favour, crank up your discipline, crank up your professionalism, and you'll still be chatting with me about poker in years and years to come. Don't be that guy that calls me out for being a nit bitch, and that just wants to be the guy that says to me that I'm fucking useless, I'm a nit, I'm a fish, I'm this and that, I'm all the things that I can't possibly be because I've survived so long. Don't be that guy that gets angry at me for saying these things. Be the guy that says, you know what, maybe this guy's right. He's been around a long time. He must know what he's talking about. Just be that guy and just really, really instill a sense of discipline and professionalism in your game that you've never had before. You might be bored for the next 4 or 5 months while you build that life roll, that next 6-7 months while you build that life roll. Then you might be bored while you build your poker roll. But if you do it, and you manage to do it, and you in 12 months' time, I think there's a very good chance you'll come back to me and say, you know what, that 18-19 minutes that I spent listening to you being a really boring fucker about money management is possibly one of the most important 18, 19, 20 minutes of my entire poker career. And if you want to be the guy that slags me off, that's fine, just do that. Please come back to me in 2 years' time, let me know how you're doing, and just prove to me that I'm wrong. Don't just say, hey, Reg, you're a prick, you're a cunt, you're a this, you're a that, you're the other, fuck off, we don't need your bullshit on here. Don't just say that. Go away, keep your thoughts to yourselves, come back in 2 years' time and prove me I'm wrong. Prove to me that you've gone through your entire last 2 years at poker having just a $30 bankroll, 30 buy-in bankroll, nothing in your account, and you're still a winning player. If you can do that, I'll tip my hat to you. Chances are most of you won't be able to do that. So there we go. If you've got any questions about anything we've talked about in here, please leave them in the YouTube comments, in the Reddit comments, in the Facebook group comments, wherever you are, please leave them. If you want to call me all the names under the sun, by all means do it. I'm probably going to ignore you. If you have any questions about how I manage my problems, and I had lots of them, I'd be delighted to share my experiences with you. Just ask, and as soon as I find the time, I'll be happy to reply to any questions, comments, or any experiences you'd like me to share. But for now, we'll leave it there, and I hope you guys have a good month. Bye-bye for now.